In 1963, a single factory in Chicago commanded 25% of every bicycle sold in America. Walk into any suburban garage from Connecticut to California, and there was a 1 in 4 chance you'd find that name stamped on chrome handlebars. Schwinn. They manufactured the Stingray that shaped an entire generation's childhood. They created the balloon tire cruiser, the paperboy bike, the muscle bike with a banana seat that every kid in America pleaded with their parents to buy. At their height, this company operated 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, employed 1,800 workers in a massive Chicago industrial complex, and sold over 1 million bicycles a year. Bikes so desired that dealers maintained waiting lists 6 months long. Then something went catastrophically wrong. By 1983, those same Chicago factory floors stood empty. The workers were gone. The machines were silent. And within 8 years, the company that endured the Great Depression and 2 world wars would declare bankruptcy. Its market share plummeted from 25% to 5%, drowning in $82 million of debt. This is the story of how one German immigrant transformed a bicycle boom into America's greatest 2-wheeled empire. How innovation and quality forged an industrial dynasty that appeared invincible. And how that same dynasty executed a series of decisions so arrogant and short-sighted that it imploded in less than 2 decades. This isn't just about old bikes collecting dust in your parents' basement. This is about the fatal price of ignoring change. The danger of believing your name alone will protect you. And what happens when a family's pride in yesterday's achievements blinds them to tomorrow's revolution? Welcome inside the silent Schwinn factory, where America's bicycle dream was built, dominated, and destroyed. Chapter 1. The Immigrant Engineer. Hardheim, Germany, 1871. An 11-year-old boy named Ignaz Schwinn stands at his father's funeral, watching them lower the casket into frozen ground. His mother cannot afford to keep him. Within weeks, he's sent off to a mechanical trade school, the kind of institution where poor kids learn to work with their hands so they don't starve. While other boys his age are playing, Ignaz is learning lathes, gears, and precision metalwork. It's brutal, it's lonely, but it saves his life. By the time he reaches 16, he's apprenticed to a traveling bicycle repair shop, moving town to town across Germany with a toolbox and a bedroll. Bicycles are exploding across Europe. The newest technology, the future of transportation. And Ignaz is obsessed. He doesn't just repair them, he studies them, dismantles them, sketches improvements in notebooks he carries everywhere. He's not just learning a trade, he's learning how to construct an empire. At 20, he secures a job at Heinrich Kleier's bicycle factory in Frankfurt, one of the most advanced manufacturers in Germany. Ignaz isn't satisfied being another worker on the floor. He watches, he learns, he pushes. Within a few years, he's promoted to designer, then manager. By 1889, Kleier trusts him enough to help design and construct an entirely new factory, what will eventually become the famous Adler Works, one of Europe's largest industrial plants. Ignaz Schwinn is 29 years old, and he's already helped build one of the most sophisticated manufacturing facilities on the continent. He should be satisfied. He's not, because Ignaz sees something his colleagues don't. Germany is crowded. The bicycle market is saturated. Every town has 3 manufacturers competing over the same customers. There's no room to expand, no space to dominate. But across the Atlantic, America is wide open. In 1891, at 31 years old, Ignaz makes a decision that will change everything. He books passage on a steamship, crosses the ocean with almost nothing, and steps off the boat in Chicago, a city exploding with industry, ambition, and chaos. He doesn't speak perfect English. He doesn't have connections. He doesn't have money. What he possesses is a decade of experience building bicycles at the highest level and an unshakable belief that he's destined for more than working for someone else. Chicago in the 1890s is the Wild West of manufacturing. Bicycle companies are appearing on every corner, fueled by a nationwide craze. Everyone wants one. Everyone's buying. It's a gold rush, and Ignatz just arrived with a pickaxe. He lands his first job at Fowler's Cycle Manufacturing Company as a floor supervisor. Decent pay, decent position, but it's not enough. Within a year, he jumps to International Manufacturing Company as head of their design team. Better pay, more responsibility, still not enough. Because every night, Ignatz goes home to a cramped apartment and stares at the ceiling doing the math. He's making other men wealthy. His designs, his innovations, their profits. He's 33 years old, and he's already one of the best bicycle engineers in Chicago. Maybe in America, but he's still just an employee, still taking orders, still building someone else's dream instead of his own. That ends now. Chapter 2. The Birth of an Empire. 1894. Ignatz Schwinn walks into a meeting that will transform his life. Across the table sits Adolf Frederick William Arnold, wealthy German-American businessman, co-founder of Arnold Brothers Meatpacking Empire, chairman of Hay Market Produce Bank. Arnold's got capital. Ignatz has got expertise. Arnold sees what's happening in America. Bicycles are everywhere, and the boom is just getting started. He needs someone who actually knows how to manufacture them. Ignatz needs capital to stop working for other people. The handshake happens fast. In 1895, Arnold Schwinn and Company is born in Chicago. The deal is simple. Arnold writes the checks. Ignatz runs the operation. No committees, no interference. Ignatz finally has what he's been chasing since he stepped off that boat. Control. Their first move. They don't even have a product name yet. So they run a contest among their dealers. 4 of them independently submit the same suggestion. World. It's perfect. Bold, aspirational, universal. World Bicycles hits the market with state-of-the-art machinery Ignatz personally specs out, using everything he learned in Germany and refined in Chicago. The quality is immediately obvious. These aren't cheap knockoffs slapped together in a basement workshop. These are precision machines built by someone who actually understands metallurgy, geometry, and stress points. And the timing couldn't be better. America is losing its mind over bicycles. In Chicago alone, over 300 manufacturers are cranking them out as fast as humanly possible. It's absolute chaos. It's a feeding frenzy. Shops are opening on every street corner. Investment money is pouring in. Everyone thinks they're going to get rich. Most of them are dead wrong. Ignatz knows this industry is about to collapse. You don't survive a gold rush by digging for gold. You survive by selling shovels, and only if your shovels don't break. While competitors are cutting corners to pump out volume, Ignatz is obsessing over details, over weld quality, over frame geometry that actually makes sense, over components that won't fail after 6 months. He's not trying to win this year. He's trying to win the next 20. Sales climb, reputation builds. By 1899, Arnold and Schwinn are doing well enough to make a major move. They acquire March Davis Bicycle Company and construct an entirely new factory, bigger, more efficient, more automated than anything they've had before. Ignatz is scaling up while others are scrambling just to survive. But then something interesting happens. A massive conglomerate called American Bicycle Company approaches them with an offer. It's a trust, a monopoly play. Buying up every bicycle manufacturer they can find, trying to corner the entire market through consolidation. They want Arnold Schwinn and company. The offer is substantial. Cash up front, guaranteed contracts. Most companies are saying yes immediately. Ignatz says no. Arnold backs him. It's a gutsy call because American Bicycle Company is enormous, and turning them down means going head-to-head with a corporate giant that's swallowing the competition. But Ignatz doesn't trust it. He's seen this before. The numbers don't add up. The strategy feels desperate, not strategic. The whole thing smells like a house of cards. He'd rather bet on himself. 3 years later, in 1903, American Bicycle Company collapses into bankruptcy. Every manufacturer that joined them goes down with the ship. Assets liquidated, factories shuttered, workers unemployed. Arnold and Schwinn still standing, still independent, still profitable. Ignatz just dodged a bullet that killed dozens of his competitors. But surviving the trust isn't the same as thriving, because the market itself is shifting underneath everyone's feet. After 1900, bicycle sales dropped 25% nationwide. The reason is brutally simple: automobiles and motorcycles. The car is no longer a rich man's toy. It's becoming legitimate transportation. Motorcycles are faster, louder, more exciting than bicycles could ever be. The boom is over. The bubble has popped. The party's done. Over the next few years, hundreds of bicycle companies go bankrupt. Factories shut down. Entire city blocks of manufacturing operations go dark. Workers get laid off by the thousands. The gold rush is finished, and the hangover is absolutely brutal. Chicago's bicycle district looks like a graveyard. But Ignatz isn't panicking. He's watching, calculating, waiting. He's been through economic collapse before in Germany. He knows exactly what comes next. The weak companies die first. The desperate ones follow. And when the dust finally settles, the survivors don't just survive. They dominate because there's less competition, stronger market position, and room to expand. Ignatz Schwinn didn't come to America to be one of 300 manufacturers. He came to be the one left standing when everyone else gave up. Chapter 3. Surviving the Bust, 1905. The bicycle apocalypse is complete. 300 manufacturers in Chicago 5 years ago. Now there are 12. That's it. 12 survivors out of 300 corpses. Ignatz Schwinn is one of them. And he's not just surviving, he's hunting. While his competitors are liquidating assets and auctioning off equipment, Ignatz is buying. He's acquiring bankrupt factories at pennies on the dollar, stripping them for parts, taking their best machinery, their patents, their tooling. He's consolidating an entire industry's worth of manufacturing capacity into his own operation. This isn't opportunism. This is strategy. By the end of the decade, Schwinn has built one of the most advanced mass production facilities in America. Then, in 1908, Ignatz makes his boldest move yet. He buys out Adolf Arnold completely, every single share. After 13 years of partnership, Ignatz is now the sole owner. No more split decisions, no more compromise. It's his company, his vision, his empire, and he's about to expand it in a direction nobody sees coming. Bicycles aren't dead, but they're not growing either. The adult market has cratered. The only segment still moving, kids. Parents are purchasing bicycles for their children, but that's a limited market. Ignatz needs diversification, and he finds it in motorcycles. The logic is perfect. Motorcycles use similar manufacturing processes, similar metallurgy, similar engineering principles. His workforce already knows how to build frames, wheels, and drivetrains. It's a natural extension. In 1912, Schwinn acquires Excelsior Motor Manufacturing and Supply Company, a small but respected motorcycle builder. 5 years later, in 1917, he buys Henderson Motorcycle, merging the two operations into Excelsior Henderson. The motorcycle division explodes. Excelsior Henderson bikes are fast, reliable, and beautifully engineered. Everything Ignatz learned building bicycles now applied to engines and speed. By the early 1920s, Excelsior Henderson is the third largest motorcycle manufacturer in America, trailing only Indian and Harley-Davidson. Ignatz is now running two empires simultaneously, and both are printing money. But here's the thing people miss. While the motorcycle business is flashy and exciting, the bicycle business is still his foundation. And in 1914, that foundation becomes dominant. Schwinn is now the largest bicycle manufacturer in the world, controlling over 25% of the entire American market. 1 out of every 4 bikes sold in the United States has his name on it. He's not just surviving the bust, he's conquered it. His competitors either went bankrupt or got absorbed. The market consolidated exactly the way he predicted, and Schwinn came out on top. The adult bicycle market is mostly gone, replaced by cars. But the children's market, that's his. Parents trust the Schwinn name. They know it means quality, durability, safety. A Schwinn bicycle isn't a toy. It's an investment that lasts years, gets passed down to younger siblings, survives the kind of abuse only kids can inflict. Ignatz has built a brand that means something. And in early 20th century America, that's worth more than gold. Then after World War I, something important happens. Ignatz's son, Frank W. Schwinn, joins the company. Frank grew up watching his father build an empire from nothing. He understands the business, respects the craft, and shares Ignatz's obsession with quality. This isn't some spoiled rich kid stepping into a cushy executive role. Frank has been preparing for this his entire life. He knows the factory floor, he knows the dealers, he knows the customers. Ignatz is in his late 50s now. Still sharp, still driven, but he's thinking long-term. He's thinking legacy. Frank represents continuity, a second generation that can carry the vision forward without destroying what's been built. Through the 1920s, Schwinn is operating at full capacity. The bicycle business is stable and profitable. The motorcycle division is thriving. Ignatz has diversified successfully, weathered economic collapse, and emerged as an industrial titan. He's gone from a broke German immigrant fixing bicycles in 1891 to one of the most powerful manufacturers in America by 1930. Everything he touched turned to success. Everything he built lasted. Everything he predicted came true. He survived when 300 others failed. But survival isn't the same as immortality. And the next test, the one that will truly define his genius, is about to arrive. It's called the Great Depression, and it's going to be worse than anything America has ever seen. Chapter 4. The Depression-Era Pivot. October 1929. The stock market implodes. Ignatz Schwinn watches his personal investment portfolio evaporate almost overnight. Decades of accumulated wealth gone. He's not bankrupt, but he's badly wounded. And he knows what's coming next. This isn't a correction. This isn't a temporary downturn. This is the beginning of economic catastrophe. And most businessmen are too blind or too arrogant to see it. Ignatz sees it clearly. By the summer of 1931, unemployment is skyrocketing. Banks are failing. Factories are closing. People aren't buying motorcycles. They're trying to afford bread. Ignatz calls a meeting with his Excelsior motorcycle division. The room is full of engineers, managers, production staff. The order backlog is healthy. They've got demand. They've got customers waiting. And Ignatz walks in and says 5 words that shock everyone. "Gentlemen, today we stop." He's shutting down the entire motorcycle operation immediately, completely. No phase out, no gradual wind down. They're done. The room erupts. His managers are stunned. They've got orders on the books. They're the 3rd biggest motorcycle manufacturer in America, behind only Indian and Harley-Davidson. Why would they close a profitable division? Because Ignatz is looking 8 years ahead. He's predicting the Great Depression will last nearly a decade. And he's right. Motorcycles are luxury items, discretionary spending. In a depression, people don't buy luxuries. They buy necessities. Bicycles, on the other hand, are cheap transportation. A working-class family can't afford a car, but they can afford a bicycle. Kids still need bikes. Paperboys still need bikes. Running 2 divisions through a depression will drain resources, split focus, and likely kill both businesses. So Ignatz makes the brutal choice: kill the profitable motorcycle business to save the essential bicycle business. By September 1931, Excelsior Henderson is shut down. Every machine silenced, every worker reassigned or let go. Ignatz's son, Frank W. Schwinn, now 35 years old, takes over the bicycle division with a hand-picked team. And here's where it gets interesting. Frank doesn't just continue making the same old bicycles. He takes everything they learned building motorcycles, the styling, the chrome, the attitude, and applies it to bicycles. In 1933, Schwinn introduces the B10E motorbike. It's a bicycle designed to look like a motorcycle, styled for kids and teenagers who want to feel fast, cool, rebellious. It's got aggressive lines, a tank-style frame, the illusion of power. But there's a problem. The ride is too harsh. The narrow tires that work fine on smooth pavement rattle your teeth loose on rough streets. So Frank approaches American Rubber Company with a specific request: build me a balloon tire. Not the standard 28 by 1.5 inch skinny tire everyone uses. He wants 26 by 2.125 inches, wide, soft, cushioned. American Rubber thinks he's crazy. Frank convinces them anyway. The result changes everything. The wider tires smooth out the ride, absorb bumps, make the bike comfortable for hours. Kids love it. Parents love it because their kids actually want to ride it. In 1934, Frank refines the design into the Aerocycle. Leather saddle, chrome fenders, plated headlight, horn. This thing looks like a miniature motorcycle, and it's gorgeous. It becomes the iconic paperboy bike, the cruiser that defines American childhood for a generation. Every competitor starts copying it. The Aerocycle becomes the template. But Schwinn isn't relying on style alone. Frank establishes a dedicated quality control division, something almost no bicycle company has. He's obsessed with consistency. Every weld inspected, every frame tested. If it doesn't meet standards, it doesn't leave the factory. And to make that promise visible, Schwinn launches the Schwinn Quality Seal, the first quality certification in the bicycle industry. It's a guarantee stamped right on the bike. This was built right. While the rest of America is collapsing, Schwinn is innovating. While competitors are cutting corners to survive, Schwinn is raising standards. While other companies are going bankrupt, Schwinn is building the foundation for decades of dominance. Ignatz made the right call. He sacrificed the exciting business to save the essential one. He predicted the Depression's length almost perfectly. And by focusing everything on bicycles, better design, better quality, better marketing, Schwinn emerges from the Great Depression stronger than it entered. By the time World War II arrives, Schwinn isn't just surviving, it's dominating. The empire didn't just weather the storm, it became the storm. Chapter 5. Post-War Golden Age. 1946. World War II is over. American soldiers are coming home, getting married, buying houses in the suburbs, starting families. The baby boom is beginning, and those babies are going to need bicycles. But there's a problem Schwinn didn't anticipate. Europe. In 1946, bicycle imports from Europe increased tenfold. 46,840 units flood into American ports, and 95% of them are from England. British bikes are different. They're lighter, faster, equipped with 3-speed gears. Compared to heavy American cruisers, they feel like racing machines. Adults who want exercise, who want speed, who want something more sophisticated than a paperboy bike, they're buying British. Schwinn's initial response is predictable. Build a similar model, but keep it American. They produce lightweight bikes with gears, but they stick with wider tires and larger wheels. The Schwinn signature. It works reasonably well, but it's a defensive move, not a visionary one. The real revolution happens around 1950, and it has nothing to do with the bicycles themselves. It's about distribution. Most American bicycle manufacturers are doing business the same way they've done it for decades, selling wholesale to department stores like Sears, Montgomery Ward, and J.C. Penney. Those stores slap their own private label on the bikes and sell them under house brands. It's easy. It's established. It requires no marketing effort from the manufacturer. Frank Schwinn looks at this system and sees a fatal flaw. When you sell wholesale to a department store, you lose control. You lose pricing power. You lose brand identity. A customer walks into Sears and sees a dozen different bikes on the floor. Some labeled Sears, some labeled J.C. Penney, maybe one labeled Schwinn if they even stock it. How does Schwinn stand out? How do they build loyalty? How do they justify premium pricing when they're sitting next to cheaper alternatives on the same rack? The answer, they don't. So Frank makes a radical decision. Schwinn will not sell to department stores under private labels. They will only sell under the Schwinn name directly to independent bicycle dealers. The only exception, Goodrich tire stores, because those aren't general retailers. They're automotive shops with floor space for bikes. It's a huge gamble. Department stores have massive reach, guaranteed volume, instant distribution. By cutting them off, Schwinn is walking away from the easiest sales channel in America. But Frank isn't interested in easy. He's interested in dominance. In 1952, Frank assembles a new management team to execute this strategy. Ray Birch takes over marketing. Bill Stoss becomes general manager. Al Fritz leads design. These aren't corporate yes men. These are operators. People who understand manufacturing, retail, and customer psychology. And they hit the road. Literally, Schwinn. Reps start visiting independent bike shops across America with a pitch. Make Schwinn your primary brand, or better yet, your exclusive brand. In exchange, you get protected territory. You get factory support. You get the Schwinn name, the most trusted name in bicycles. What's the catch? You have to carry the Schwinn logo. No private labeling, no rebranding. You're selling Schwinn bicycles, and everyone who walks into your shop knows it. For dealers, it's a strange proposition. Exclusivity means betting everything on one supplier. If Schwinn screws up, you're stuck. But it also means you're not competing with the department store down the street selling the same bike for 20% less. You're selling Schwinn, a premium product with a premium reputation. Hundreds of dealers take the deal, and it works. By the late 1950s, Schwinn has built a nationwide network of dedicated dealers who have a vested interest in pushing Schwinn over competitors. When a parent walks into a bike shop asking for advice, the dealer doesn't say, Here are 5 options. The dealer says, "You want a Schwinn." It's brilliant. Schwinn controls the message, controls the pricing, controls the customer experience. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, the factory is running at full capacity. By the early 1970s, the plant employs 1,800 workers operating in 3 shifts, cranking out over 1 million bicycles a year. The production floor is a symphony of welding torches, paint booths, and assembly lines. Frames are brazed by hand. Components are inspected individually. Quality control is obsessive because Frank Schwinn knows that the entire business model depends on one thing: reputation. If a Schwinn breaks, if a weld fails, if a customer feels ripped off, the whole system collapses. The dealer loses trust. The customer goes elsewhere. The brand dies. So quality is non-negotiable. For over 2 decades, from the late 1940s through the early 1970s, Schwinn holds at least 25% of the American bicycle market. 1 out of every 4 bikes sold in the United States is a Schwinn. That's not luck. That's not accident. That's the result of a distribution strategy so effective, the business schools will study it for generations. Schwinn isn't the biggest because they make the best bikes, though they do. They're the biggest because they control how those bikes reach customers. And they've built a system where everyone in the chain, manufacturer, dealer, customer, benefits from choosing Schwinn. This is the golden age. This is the peak. This is the empire at full power, and it feels unstoppable. Chapter 6. The Stingray Phenomenon. Early 1960s Southern California. Kids are doing something Schwinn never expected. They're taking standard bicycles and chopping them up. Installing smaller 20-inch wheels, bolting on long banana seats, welding high-rise handlebars they call ape hangers, adding tall bars on the back. They're turning bicycles into miniature choppers, imitating the custom motorcycles their older brothers are building in garage workshops. It's a grassroots movement, totally organic, and it's spreading fast. Al Fritz, Schwinn's director of research and development, catches wind of this trend during a trip to California. He watches these kids popping wheelies, racing each other, showing off their custom creations, and he sees it immediately. This isn't a fad. This is the next big thing. Fritz rushes back to Chicago and pitches the idea to Schwinn's management team. We need to mass produce this. Build a bike that looks like a custom chopper straight from the factory. The response: laughter. The executives think it's ridiculous. It looks weird. It's impractical. Parents will never buy their kids a bike that screams rebel. Fritz won't let it go. He keeps pushing. Eventually, Frank Schwinn gives him the green light, but barely. They won't put it in the catalog. They'll test it quietly through direct dealer sales and see what happens. In 1963, the Schwinn Stingray hits the market. Short frame, high-rise handlebars, banana seat, 20-inch rear wheel. It comes in colors that pop. Flamboyant red, flamboyant lime, sky blue, radiant copper tone. It looks like nothing else on the road, and kids go absolutely berserk for it. The Stingray is perfect for wheelies. The short wheelbase and rear weight distribution make it easy to yank the front end up and ride on one wheel. Every kid in the neighborhood wants to show off, and the Stingray is the ultimate show-off bike. Sales explode instantly. Between 1963 and 1968, Schwinn sells nearly 2 million Stingrays. 2 million. It becomes the best-selling bicycle in Schwinn's history, outselling every cruiser, every lightweight, every model they've ever produced. The Stingray isn't just a product. It's a cultural icon. It defined suburban childhood in the 1960s. If you grew up middle class in America during that decade, you either owned a Stingray or desperately wanted one. It's the bike you see in every driveway, every garage, every photograph of kids playing in the street. Schwinn, sensing they've struck gold, starts iterating. In 1965, they released the fastback model with a slick rear tire, taking inspiration from drag racing, where bald tires grip the pavement harder. Kids love it because it looks faster, meaner, more aggressive. In 1966, Schwinn adds a stick shift, an actual gear shifter mounted on the frame like a Pontiac GTO muscle car. It doesn't dramatically improve performance, but it doesn't need to. It's about the feeling, the attitude, the illusion of power. Then in 1968, Schwinn takes it to the absolute extreme. They launched the Crate series, the most over-the-top, outrageous, performance-focused Stingrays ever built. The first three models are the Orange Crate, Lemon, Peeler, and Apple Crate. Each one named after a fruit, each one styled after California dragsters, each one engineered to be the baddest bike on the block. The Crate isn't cheap. Starting price is $86.95, which is serious money in 1968. For comparison, a standard Stingray costs around $40, but the Crate justifies the premium. It's got a front drum brake for serious stopping power, a rear caliper or disc brake, a custom banana seat, a 5-speed stick shift, chrome everything. These bikes are engineered for performance, not just style. And kids save their allowance, mow lawns, beg their parents for months to get one. Schwinn sells 150,000 crates per year in the early period. It's not Stingray numbers, but for a premium product at twice the price, it's staggering. The Crate becomes the aspirational bike, the one you graduate to when you outgrow your standard Stingray, the one that separates the serious riders from the posers. For a decade, the Stingray phenomenon dominates Schwinn's business. It's not just their bestseller. It's a cultural juggernaut that competitors scramble to copy. Huffy, Murray, every other manufacturer rushes out their own versions, but none of them capture the magic. Schwinn got there first, executed it perfectly, and owned the category. By 1973, the Crate line is discontinued. The muscle craze is fading, kids are moving on. Trends shift, but the impact is permanent. The Stingray and the Crate defined an era, generated hundreds of millions in revenue, and cemented Schwinn's reputation as the company that understood what kids wanted before anyone else did. This is Schwinn at its absolute peak. This is the empire at maximum power. This is the moment when everything worked. Design, marketing, manufacturing, distribution, all firing in perfect sync. And it will never be this good again. Chapter 7. Missing the New Wave. The 1970s. America is obsessed with fitness. Jogging becomes a national pastime. Gyms are popping up everywhere. And bicycles are no longer just for kids. Adults want them for exercise, for commuting, for weekend recreation. It's a massive new market, and it's growing fast. But the bikes people want aren't the heavy American cruisers Schwinn has been building for decades. They want lightweight road bikes, sleek European models from companies like Raleigh, French imports with thin tires and drop handlebars, Japanese bikes engineered with precision and sold at competitive prices. These bikes weigh half what a traditional Schwinn weighs. They're faster, more efficient, better suited for actual athletic riding. Schwinn's response: keep building the same heavy-framed bikes they've always built. They add gears, sure, they tweak the styling, but fundamentally they're still producing tanks when the market wants sports cars. It's the first warning sign, and Schwinn ignores it completely. Meanwhile, out in Southern California, something else is happening. Kids are taking their Stingrays to dirt lots and racing them, jumping ramps, skidding around corners, beating the hell out of these bikes in ways they were never designed for. It's rough, It's dangerous, and it's exploding in popularity. BMX, bicycle motocross, is born. In 1976, Skip Hess founds Mongoose Bicycle Company specifically to build bikes for this new sport. Gary Turner's GT Bicycles becomes another major force. These aren't toy companies. They're engineering bikes with reinforced frames, knobby tires, and components that can survive brutal impacts. BMX becomes a legitimate sport with organized races, sponsorships, and a dedicated following. Schwinn looks at BMX and sees a liability, too dangerous, too niche. Parents will sue if their kids get hurt. It doesn't fit the family-friendly, quality-focused image Schwinn has cultivated for decades. So they sit it out. They let Mongoose and GT own the entire category. Then, in 1974, a guy named Gary Fisher does something that should have been a wake-up call. He takes an old 1937 Schwinn Excelsior frame, one of the heavy, durable cruisers from Schwinn's golden age, and modifies it. He adds multiple gears, knobby tires, and better brakes. He takes it up into the mountains of Marin County, California, and rides it down fire trails at high speed. He's just invented the mountain bike. Fisher brings his creation to Schwinn, shows it to their engineers, explains the concept: off-road cycling, rugged terrain, a whole new category of riding. The Schwinn engineers laugh at him. They think it's absurd. Why would anyone want to ride a bicycle in the dirt? That's not what bikes are for. Frank Viv Schwinn, grandson of Ignaz, now running the company, actively dismisses the entire idea. He's insulted that people are chopping up vintage Schwinn frames for this ridiculous hobby. It's disrespectful to the brand. Meanwhile, a young entrepreneur named Mike Sinyard is paying attention. In 1981, his company Specialized starts importing mountain bike components from Japan. In 1982, Specialized releases the Stump Jumper, the first mass-produced mountain bike. It's an instant hit. Within a few years, mountain biking goes from a fringe activity to a mainstream sport. Bike shops can't keep them in stock, and Schwinn still dismissing it as a fad. At the same time, Trek Bicycle Corporation, founded in 1976 in a Wisconsin barn, is focusing on lightweight road bikes for affluent adults. Trek targets serious cyclists willing to pay premium prices starting at $279. They're not trying to compete with Schwinn's children's market. They're building a new category Schwinn doesn't even acknowledge exists. By 1980, Schwinn is facing problems on multiple fronts. The Chicago factory, the same plant that's been operating since the early 1900s, is falling apart. It's outdated, inefficient, and frankly dangerous. Parts of it are fire hazards. The equipment is ancient. It's not capable of producing the lightweight frames the market now demands. Then the union goes on strike. The relationship between Schwinn management and the factory workers has always been tense, but now it's openly hostile. The Schwinn family decides they're done. They're not investing another dime in that Chicago plant. Instead, they'll build a new factory in Greenville, Mississippi, a right-to-work state where unions have no power. In 1981, the Greenville plant opens. It's supposed to be Schwinn's salvation, a modern facility that can produce high-quality bikes and compete with the imports. That's the plan anyway. In 1982, Schwinn finally tries to enter the mountain bike market. They release the Sidewinder. It's not really a mountain bike. It's just their old Varsity or Continental model with fat tires bolted on. No engineering innovation, no understanding of what mountain bikers actually need. It's a half-hearted effort, and the market sees right through it. A year later, in 1983, Schwinn releases the Sierra, a legitimate chromoly mountain bike that's actually well-designed. But here's the kicker. It's manufactured by Giant in Taiwan. Schwinn doesn't build it themselves, and by this point, they're a decade late to a market that Specialized, Trek, and others already dominate. June 1983, Schwinn closes the Chicago factory. 1,800 workers get pink slips. The plant that built the Stingray, the Aerocycle, the bikes that defined American childhood for generations, shut down forever. The last Chicago-made Schwinn rolls off the line, and with it, an era ends. Schwinn missed BMX, missed mountain bikes, missed the lightweight road bike boom, missed every major trend that defined the 1970s and early 1980s. And now, they've lost the manufacturing heart of their company. The empire is crumbling, and the people running it either don't see it or don't care. Chapter 8. The Greenville Gamble. 1980. The Chicago factory is in crisis. Workers walk off the line, demanding better pay and safer conditions. The Schwinn family looks at the situation and sees a 90-year-old building that's falling apart. Outdated machinery, fire hazards, structural problems everywhere. The plant physically cannot produce the lightweight frames the market demands. Modern materials require different welding techniques, tighter tolerances, equipment this factory doesn't have and can't accommodate. Meanwhile, Trek and Specialized are eating Schwinn's lunch with mountain bikes and high-end road bikes the Chicago plant has no ability to manufacture. The union is demanding investment. The Schwinn family refuses. They've made their decision. They're done with Chicago. Instead, they're going all in on a massive gamble. In 1981, Schwinn announces construction of a brand new factory in Greenville, Mississippi. This is the plan. Build a state-of-the-art American manufacturing facility that can produce premium bicycles to compete with Trek's quality. Import the cheap stuff from Asia, but make the high-end models in Mississippi and slap Made in America on them. It's a two-tier strategy. Greenville gets chosen for specific reasons. It's a right-to-work state where unions have no power. The state offers tax incentives and labor is cheaper than Chicago. On paper, it's brilliant. Build modern, union-free, cost-effective. The American manufacturing dream updated for the 1980s. Except there's one problem nobody thought through. Greenville is in the middle of nowhere. The factory sits 75 miles from the nearest interstate highway. If you're flying from Chicago, you go to Memphis, then catch a puddle jumper to a regional airport, then drive 3 hours on back roads, or you skip the second flight and just drive the whole way through rural Mississippi. Schwinn's management starts joking that it's easier to get to Taiwan than to get to Greenville. They're not entirely wrong, but logistics are just the beginning of the problems. Greenville is a small town in the Mississippi Delta. Cotton fields, catfish farms. Not a lot of industrial infrastructure. There's no deep talent pool of experienced welders or metal workers. Schwinn has to train people from scratch, and even then, the skill level never matches what they had in Chicago. Worse, the supply chain is a disaster. Components are coming from Asia, shipped to West Coast ports, trucked across the country, then transported down to rural Mississippi. Every step adds cost, adds delays, adds complexity. The whole operation is fighting against basic geography and economics. June 1983, Schwinn shuts down the Chicago factory. 88 years of operation over. 1,800 workers lose their jobs in a single day. The last bicycle built in Chicago rolls off the line, gets tagged, and ships out. Everything now depends on Greenville. Every hope, every strategy, every bit of Schwinn's future is riding on this one factory in Mississippi, working exactly as planned. It doesn't. From 1983 to 1991, Greenville is a slow-motion catastrophe. The bikes coming out aren't better than the imports. In some cases, they're worse. Quality control is inconsistent. The workers are trying hard, but they don't have decades of experience like the Chicago crew did. And the cost structure is insane. Yeah, Mississippi wages are lower than Chicago, but they're still 5, 10, sometimes 15 times higher than what workers make in China or Taiwan. Schwinn is paying American wages to produce bikes that have to compete on price with Asian imports. The math doesn't work. Richard Schwinn, one of the family members, volunteers to move down to Mississippi to personally oversee operations. He's trying to fix it. He implements tighter quality standards, better training programs, process improvements. Things get marginally better, but it's too little, too late. The Greenville factory never turns a profit. Not once. Every single day it operates, Schwinn is hemorrhaging money. They're running 3 shifts, trying to hit volume targets, trying to justify the investment. But the numbers are brutal. The factory is a drain, not an engine. By the late 1980s, it's undeniable. Greenville was a mistake, a very, very expensive mistake. August 1991, the announcement comes down. Greenville is closing. 240 workers receive 60-day notices. The dream is over. October 4th, 1991. A factory worker clocks out after building the last bicycle. It's a regular production model. Nothing special, nothing ceremonial. Just bike number 247 that day. He shuts off his station, turns off the lights, locks the door. The machines inside go silent. They will never start again. After 96 years of continuous American manufacturing, Schwinn no longer produces bicycles in the United States. The only exception is a tiny operation in Waterford, Wisconsin, hand-building a few hundred ultra-premium Paramount models per year for serious enthusiasts. But as a mass manufacturer, done, finished. The Greenville factory now sits empty. No workers, no noise, no production, just a big silent building in rural Mississippi that was supposed to save an empire and instead became its tomb. Because Greenville wasn't just a factory failure, it was symbolic proof that Schwinn couldn't adapt, couldn't compete, couldn't survive in the new global economy. The company bet everything on the idea that made in America still mattered enough to justify the cost. They were wrong. Customers didn't care where the bike was made. They cared about weight, performance, price, and features. Trek was selling American-made bikes, sure, but they were also importing frames from Asia and assembling them domestically. Specialized went full outsource and became a design and marketing company. Giant in Taiwan was building better bikes for less money than anyone in America could match. Schwinn tried to fight globalization with nostalgia. They tried to win on patriotism instead of innovation, and they lost. The silent factory in Greenville stands as a monument to that failure. It's the place where the last hope died. The place where Schwinn's 96-year legacy of American manufacturing came to an end. Not with celebration, not with ceremony, just with a worker turning off the lights and locking the door behind him. Forever. Chapter 9. The Final Collapse. 1983. Schwinn finally enters the BMX market with the Predator, a legitimate chromoly frame built for serious racing. It's actually a good bike, well-engineered, durable, competitively priced, but it's arriving to a party that's already over. Mongoose has owned BMX since 1975. Diamondback, GT, Harrow, they've all been dominating for years. Schwinn is so late the kids who grew up racing BMX are already teenagers moving on to other things. The Predator sells, but it's a footnote, not a revolution. 1 year later, in 1984, Schwinn releases the High Sierra mountain bike. This one actually works. It's a real mountain bike with proper geometry, quality components, designed for off-road use. Sales double year over year for 3 consecutive years. Finally, Schwinn has a hit in a modern category. But here's the problem. They're still playing catch-up, and the profits are getting funneled into keeping the Greenville factory alive. Meanwhile, Al Fritz, the same designer who created the Stingray back in 1963, is working on something completely different. He develops the Airdyne, an exercise bike that uses a giant fan instead of a traditional flywheel. The harder you pedal, the more resistance you get. It's ingenious, and it's perfectly timed for the 1980s fitness craze. In 1986, Schwinn sells 67,000 Airdy-NES at $595 each. That's nearly $40 million in revenue from a single product. And the profit margins are huge. For a brief moment, the Airdyne is keeping Schwinn afloat. It's the only thing making serious money while the bicycle division struggles. But even that doesn't last. By the early 1990s, Sears launches a knockoff Airdyne at a lower price. Schwinn's sales drop 35% almost overnight. $8 million in profit gone just like that. Now look at the bicycle sales numbers, because this is where the collapse becomes undeniable. In 1987, Schwinn sells 1 million bicycles. In 1991, that number is cut in half, 500,000 units. By 1993, it's down to 275,000. In 6 years, Schwinn loses 73% of its volume. They're not just declining, they're in free fall. And here's the truly dangerous part. By 1988, Giant Manufacturing in Taiwan is producing 82% of Schwinn's bicycles. That's roughly 700,000 bikes. Schwinn has outsourced almost its entire production to a single foreign supplier. They're completely dependent on Giant for inventory, and Giant knows it. This is leverage, and it's about to be used against them. Running the company during this disaster is Edward Schwinn Jr., Ed, the fourth generation of the Schwinn family. Ed is by all accounts a nice guy, but he's not his great-grandfather Ignaz. He's not his grandfather Frank. He doesn't have the obsession, the vision, or the operational discipline that built the empire. Yoshi Shimano, a Japanese translator who worked with Schwinn during this period, later said Ed was a kind man, but he didn't seem deeply interested in the business. Ed likes making deals more than managing operations. He's constantly chasing acquisitions, partnerships, new ventures, anything except fixing the core problems. And worse, he's alienating the people who actually know how to run the company. Ed fires or drives away multiple senior executives, experienced managers who understand manufacturing, distribution, and the bicycle industry. Some of them are let go. Others quit in frustration. And where do they go? Straight to Schwinn's competitors. Trek hires them. Specialized hires them. These guys take decades of institutional knowledge and hand it directly to the enemy. Meanwhile, Schwinn's relationship with its Asian suppliers is deteriorating fast. Giant and China bicycles aren't just manufacturers anymore. They're creditors. Schwinn owes them massive amounts of money for bikes already produced and shipped. And because Giant is also launching its own branded bicycles, they're now both Schwinn's supplier and direct competitor. By the late 1980s, the situation is critical. Schwinn's warehouses are overflowing with unsold inventory. Bikes that nobody wants, sitting in boxes, depreciating. They can't pay their Asian manufacturers. Giant and China bicycles are demanding cash on delivery. No more credit, no more terms. Pay up front or we stop production. The banks notice. They see the sales decline, the mounting debt, the inventory crisis, and they start tightening credit. Schwinn can't borrow its way out anymore. The financial noose is closing. By 1992, the numbers are catastrophic. Market share has collapsed from 25% to 5%. Total debt, $82 million. Losses over the previous 3 years, $50 million. In 1992 alone, Schwinn loses $25 million. That's over $2 million per month. Over $1 million lost every single month with no turnaround in sight. Suppliers are refusing to ship products unless Schwinn pays cash up front. Dealers are getting nervous and switching to Trek, Specialized, Giant, brands that aren't on the verge of collapse. The entire business is unraveling. On August 26, 1992, COO Ralph Day Murray walks into a board meeting and delivers the message everyone already knows, but nobody wants to hear. There is no savior coming. No white knight investor, no bailout, no last-minute miracle. It's over. 6 weeks later, on October 7, 1992, Schwinn files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. 97 years as a family-owned business, finished. The company that survived the bicycle bubble burst of 1900, the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and countless competitors, is now insolvent, and the family has lost control. But the bankruptcy itself becomes a legal nightmare. The Schwinn Family Trust technically owns the trademark, the name Schwinn itself, and they want compensation for it. So now you've got creditors fighting the family trust over who gets paid first, and lawyers arguing over the value of a brand that's been driven into the ground. Giant and China Bicycles are among the largest creditors, and they're not feeling charitable. They want their money, and they're willing to carve up Schwinn's assets to get it. The company that once defined American bicycles is now being picked apart in bankruptcy court. Factories closed, workforce gone, dealers abandoned, inventory liquidated. The Schwinn name, once worth hundreds of millions, is now just another asset being auctioned off to the highest bidder. This is the final collapse. The end of the empire. Ignatz came to America with nothing in 1891 and built a dynasty. 3 generations later, his great-grandson, Edward Jr., watched it disintegrate. Not because of bad luck, not because of unforeseeable circumstances, but because of missed opportunities, strategic failures, poor leadership, and an inability to adapt when the world changed. Schwinn didn't get beaten by better bikes. They got beaten by better decisions made by competitors who saw the future and moved toward it, while Schwinn clung to the past. Chapter 10. The Silent Factory Speaks. Greenville, Mississippi. Today, if you drive down Highway 82 and turn onto the old industrial road, you'll find it. The Schwinn factory, or what's left of it. The building still stands, but it's empty, abandoned, silent. Weeds grow through cracks in the parking lot. Windows are broken. The sign is faded, barely readable. There's a for sale notice that's been there so long, the paper has turned yellow. This building was supposed to save Schwinn. It was the last hope, the final gamble, the place where American manufacturing would prove it could still compete. Instead, it became Schwinn's tomb. The factory has been silent since 1991. Over 3 decades of nothing. No machines running, no workers clocking in, no bicycles rolling off the line, just emptiness and decay. It's the perfect symbol for what happened to American bicycle manufacturing. And if you listen closely to that silence, you can hear 3 lessons that every business, every empire needs to understand. Lesson 1. Innovate or die. Schwinn looked at BMX and called it a fad. They looked at mountain biking and called it a joke. They watched Gary Fisher ride a modified Schwinn frame down a mountain in 1974 and laughed him out of the room. Meanwhile, Skip Hess started Mongoose and owned BMX. Mike Sinyard launched Specialized and dominated mountain biking. Trek focused on lightweight road bikes and captured the adult market. These weren't lucky guesses. These were people paying attention to what customers actually wanted. Schwinn had the brand recognition. They had the distribution network. They had the manufacturing expertise. They could have owned all three categories if they'd moved fast and taken them seriously. But they didn't. They assumed their name alone was enough. They believed customers would keep buying Schwinns just because they always had, and they were catastrophically wrong. Your reputation buys you time, but it doesn't buy you forever. The moment you stop innovating, you start dying. Doesn't matter how big you are. Doesn't matter how long you've been dominant. The market doesn't care about your legacy. It cares about what you're offering right now. Schwinn forgot that, and it killed them. Lesson 2. The past can't save the future. The Greenville factory was an attempt to go back in time. Schwinn wanted to return to the glory days when made in America meant something, when quality and craftsmanship justified premium prices, when their name on a bike was enough to win. But the world had changed. By the 1980s, manufacturing had gone global. Taiwan, China, and Japan were producing high-quality bikes at a fraction of the cost. Giant could build a better frame for less money than Schwinn could in Mississippi, and customers knew it. Made in America wasn't a competitive advantage anymore. It was a cost disadvantage. Schwinn spent millions trying to prove otherwise. And all they proved was that nostalgia is a terrible business strategy. Trek understood this. They built some bikes domestically and imported others, using the best of both worlds. Specialized went full outsource, turning themselves into a design and marketing company. Giant became a manufacturer and a brand simultaneously. All of them adapted. Schwinn refused. They clung to an idea of what they used to be instead of accepting what they needed to become. And Greenville, the silent factory, stands as a monument to that failure. Lesson 3. Management matters more than legacy. Ignatz was a genius. He survived the bicycle bubble burst of 1900 by buying up bankrupt competitors. He navigated the Great Depression by killing his profitable motorcycle division and going all in on bicycles. He had vision, discipline, and the guts to make brutal decisions. His son, Frank W. Schwinn, was just as sharp. He created the dealer network that dominated American bicycle retail for decades. He launched the Stingray, the best-selling bike in company history. He understood innovation and execution. But Edward Schwinn Jr., he didn't have it. By all accounts, Ed was a decent person. But decent isn't enough to run an empire. He lacked passion for the product. He preferred chasing deals over managing operations. He fired or alienated the executives who actually knew how to run the business. And they walked straight to Trek and specialized with all of Schwinn's secrets. A family legacy doesn't guarantee competent leadership. Blood relation doesn't transfer talent. And when you put someone in charge who isn't capable of the job, the empire collapses, no matter how strong the foundation was. Schwinn learned that the hard way. What happened after the fall? In January 1993, investor Sam Zell and his Zell Chilmark Fund purchased Schwinn out of bankruptcy for $40 million. Zell tried to rebuild it, but the damage was too deep. In 2001, Schwinn filed for bankruptcy a second time. The company was then sold to Pacific Cycle, which was later acquired by Dorel Industries of Canada, which eventually sold it to Pon Holdings, a Dutch conglomerate. Today, Schwinn bikes are manufactured in China and sold at big box retailers. The brand still exists. You can buy a Schwinn at Walmart or Target. But the soul is gone. It's just a name now. A logo slapped on mass-market bikes that have nothing to do with the company Ignatz built in 1895. The only thread connecting modern Schwinn to its past is Richard Schwinn, one of the family members who tried to save Greenville. In 1993, he founded Waterford Precision Cycles in Wisconsin. Waterford builds a few hundred ultra-premium hand-crafted bicycles per year, the kind of bikes Schwinn used to make when quality mattered more than volume. It's a beautiful tribute, but it's a niche operation. It's not an empire. The silent factory speaks. Stand outside the Greenville factory today. Look at the broken windows, the overgrown lot, the rusted gates. This isn't just the story of Schwinn. This is the story of an entire era of American manufacturing coming to an end. This is what happens when companies stop listening to their customers. When they assume the rules that made them successful will work forever. When they choose pride over pragmatism. When they let nostalgia cloud their judgment. The silent factory doesn't just represent Schwinn's failure. It represents every business that thought it was too big to fall. Every empire that believed its name alone would protect it. Every company that missed the future because it was too busy celebrating the past. Ignatz came to America with nothing and built the largest bicycle company in the world. 3 generations later, his great-grandson watched it collapse into bankruptcy, sold off in pieces to pay creditors. 97 years from immigrant engineer to industrial titan to corporate corpse. The Schwinn factory in Greenville, Mississippi, sits silent, empty, forgotten. A monument to ambition, arrogance, and the unforgiving nature of capitalism. The machines are gone. The workers are gone. The dream is gone. All that's left is silence. And if you listen close enough, that silence is screaming a warning to every business leader alive. Adapt or die, innovate or disappear. The market doesn't care about your legacy. It only cares about what you're building today. Schwinn forgot that. And now the factory where they made their last stand sits dark and abandoned. A tombstone for an empire that refused to change. Welcome to the silent Schwinn factory, where America's bicycle dream was born, dominated, and destroyed.